every time we go through a farm system structure like this, I'm not only bringing up the pieces that have changed since the last time that we've actually went through it, but also the 2023 and the particular movement forward, okay, for the current times. Okay, so please, everyone, pay attention, be ready to go. My goal here is to help us all further understand exactly the chronological ordering of complete start, okay, of launching your first ad all the way to scaling past thousands of dollars a day. Okay, when I first started doing e-commerce many, many moons ago, okay, I had no systems, I had no structure, and I had no fluent motion, and still did well, okay? But to my surprise, I realized that I did a lot better when I had systems that I actually had real structure. The systems that we're going through aren't just to go ahead and give you a way to follow 1, 2, and 3. There's a reason that there's systems in place. Just keep in mind that everything you do in e-commerce, there needs to be a controlled variable, because your actual variable is your product. Okay, there's no reason you have to reinvent the wheel over and over again, especially when it gets to ads. Okay, and people tend to think, you see people in all these Facebook groups and all these different communities or coaching programs, I'm not getting the result I want, and they blame it on their ads, right? At the end of the day, you should blame it on the controlled systems that you have, whether it's product research, the way that you're doing targeting, your video creation. That's why everything we do here is a controlled variable. We have systems for everything: product research, thumbnail creation, launching. It doesn't matter what it is. There's a system, because you don't need to figure it out again. It's been done. You need to find the perfect product market fit. That is the ideology here. With that being said, when we start off, ladies and gents, we start off with algorithmic targeting. As we know, it says 12 ad sets here. Okay, we now utilize 11 ad sets because they remove the affinity column. So we use our 11 audiences on $5 a piece. Okay. The minimum, and this is a question that I get from some people who, want to go ahead and have a lighter budget to start off with and don't want to do all 11. You could have a minimum of 7, but I would really recommend you're going for, at least the full 11. Okay. But if you really want to minimize your spend and you really want to be super lean, you could do at least 7. Okay. We have 3 different styles of targeting. Can anyone tell me what those 3 styles are below? We have to understand this. Okay. We have no narrow, narrow, and single interest keyword, because they're going to give you different styles of results. So let's talk about no narrow, let's talk about narrow, and then we'll talk about single keyword. Okay. And essentially you'll have 4 no narrow, 4 with narrow, and 3 single keyword. You could kind of split that up into whatever combination you like. Maybe you want to do 3 no narrow and 4 with narrow, and 4 single keyword. It doesn't really matter as long as you're hitting the 11. Okay, that's what I really care about here. No narrow, okay, is ultimately going for stacking keywords, which ultimately means you're stacking keywords on top of one another. Okay, as we know, if you're at this point in our movement, you see that we have our algorithmic targeting sheet with 11 different audiences across the board. Okay, each of those 11 audiences is given one of these different styles to kind of utilize to complete the targeting, which means that on some audiences, I might have a single interest keyword and that's it. On some audiences, I might have a narrow to go ahead and make the sizing a bit smaller if it was a bit large. And on some audiences, I might have no narrow, right? Because WOT targeting, wide open targeting in large audiences is something that Facebook favors. So it's always smart to go ahead and try this at launch. So the real ideology of all of this, right, and the real movement of all of this means that we're trying to satisfy these criterias while hitting our 800K to 5 million mark, right? That's the puzzle piece here. Okay, it's really simple when you understand that each separate audience, each 11 audience has its own budget. Each is on the $5 a piece budget, right? And we're launching one full algorithmic column with 11 audiences per product. We're launching one product at a time. Okay, what happens here is when we launch a full-on algorithmic audience like this, what happens is the following. Okay, we're going to start to obviously have movement when you launch your actual algorithmic. Okay, meaning you're gonna start to understand that you're gonna see sales, you'll see spend going, and you want to follow a 3-day rule. Okay, our 3-day rule is as follows: day 1, no view content, we kill it. Day 2, no add to cart, we kill it. And day 3, no purchase, we kill it. Okay, the goal here of the algorithmic launch is to get to 25 sales, because if something can reach 25 sales while breaking even, slight loss, or slight profit, or full profit, that's a great sign. There's massive demand there. Okay. And when we're at that point of 25 sales, we want to start remarketing. Okay. Which means we're going to create our custom audiences and put them into their own campaign on $1.50 to $5 a piece. Okay. Which is going to start to be our actual movement of remarketing. Okay. Now with remarketing, let's understand a few things here. If you've gotten to 25 sales, that means there's genuine interest in what you're selling. And what we want to also realize here is we don't want to be blind to real demand. Let's say we have a product and we're set on that product. We love that product, or for whatever reason, we have to sell that product. We don't want to be blind to lack of demand, and we don't want to be blind toward mass demand, which means it's going to be a good indicator in the first 3 to 5 days as to how well the product's going to do over the next few weeks, right? And the only reason that a lot of people struggle to do this outside of this program is because, one, they don't have the guidance, they don't have the know-how, they don't have the kind of nurturing to be able to read metrics when they're given to you live like that, right? So when we start to get our first metrics, whether you're brand new or you're already scaled up and you've seen what it is over and over again that kind of drives the result and drives the sale, you'll start to get in the habit of reading these metrics. Every time we receive a sale, what happens is that audience is leaving the 3-day rule, meaning the 3-day rule is basically the vetting process for us to take an audience further down the road, which means that ultimately, as you launch your algorithmic, the goal is within 3 days to achieve a sale on every audience. Does that happen? No, it really doesn't. Okay. And for guys like anyone who's been here for a good amount of time, we know that oftentimes, okay, when you launch an actual ad set, or you launch all 11 audiences and all algorithmic, it's very rare to have all your audiences get sales, right? You could see 3 of them get sales, 4, maybe 5, maybe half them, right? But majority of them and half them will end up getting killed off and the other half will end up getting scaled, right? And that's kind of like where we're looking at here. Because keep in mind, the reason we have algorithmic targeting segmented into 11 different audiences, because there's going to be portions of that community, portions of that niche, portions of that market that are going to be a cheaper cost per acquisition for you to acquire that consumer. Which means, why would I go ahead and spend on this half of the market when I could spend on this half of the market for half the cost per acquisition, right? And that becomes a really, really big point, especially when you start to get deeper or you're selling higher ticket products or you're trying to work in upsells and things like that down the road. You want to understand that certain corners of the market are going to have different costs per acquisition, right? Which is so important. So that's ultimately what we're using algorithmic targeting to see. And we're using algorithmic targeting to gauge which audiences will exit the 3-day rule. As we receive our first sale, let's say it's day 1, okay? And we have 11 audiences and 7 of them get a sale, right? Which is really cool. But the other rest don't even get a view content, right? On day 1, whatever does not have a view content will be killed off, okay? When you get a sale, even on day 1 or day 2, you have an immediate duplication process that occurs. Okay, now you have a choice to make here. You can either duplicate 3 times or 5 times. If you're someone who has more budget, you want to move quicker, and you're not someone who cares about the ad spend, duplicate 5 times, okay? But if you're someone who's strapped and you're extremely, extremely cautious with your spend, duplicate 3 times, okay? The goal here is to duplicate over again to increase the amount of pockets that you're hitting with that particular audience that has performed well, okay? With that being said, let's say we have day 2. Okay, so keep in mind, we had 4 audiences killed off because we had 7 that got sales and the rest that didn't. Okay, so that means we have 7 audiences running. Okay, and they all have gotten sales, which means that as soon as they get a sale, guys, they're no longer being looked at in the 3-day rule because they've already beat the 3-day rule, right? The 3-day rule is by the end of day 3, they should have a purchase and then we can proceed. So day 1, no view content. Day 2, no add to cart, we kill it. Day 3, no purchase, we kill it. Considering those 7 audiences got sales in the first 2 days, right? That means we're going to keep them on. And what's going to happen here is we're going to audit them on a KPI standpoint, which means that you're going to write this down. Everyone write this down. You're going to watch the KPI ad analysis video in university because every single audience that ever gets out of the 3-day rule will be audited and benchmarked based off these KPI credentials, which goes to the tune of CPM around 25, 30 bucks. CPC around the tune of 60 to 80 cents or below. Okay, CTR to the tune of about 1.8 to 2%. Okay, these are the metrics that you want to tattoo to your brain, and they're just the kind of formulas that you have to remember. Okay, just like you have to remember back in algebra, whatever, the Pythagorean theorem, right? These are things you have to remember here in e-commerce. As we have these audiences running, what we're left with is the mother audiences from the algorithmic campaign that got sales and are still meeting our metrics, and the duplications that got sales and are still meeting our metrics. The duplications are also following the 3-day rule, ladies and gents. Keep that in mind. With that being said, the goal, ladies and gents, of the 3-day rule and the goal of duplication, ladies and gents, okay, is 100 sales. Okay, we want to continue down this path for 100 sales, meaning, okay, we want to do our algorithmic targeting, we want to do our duplications, we want to do our remarketing, and the goal is to continue that up to 100 sales. Okay. And the goal here, ladies and gents, now Mariana says, do you literally start the ad at midnight and ideally reevaluate at midnight as well, or do you start at another time? So great question, Mariana. And let me go ahead and bring that up since we're in this section right here now. Ladies and gents, when you go ahead and launch your algorithmic audiences, as well as any duplications, they should always be scheduled to be launched at midnight. The reason that we launch our audiences at midnight, ladies and gents, is because Facebook operates based on a timetable, which means that at midnight, if you stare at your ad account, you'll see it reset, go to 0, and about after 10 minutes, start spending again. And what happens here is as Facebook pauses at midnight and start spending again, if you waited another 6 hours to go ahead and turn your ads on at a random time, what would happen here is your ads would go ahead and spend sporadically. You'd probably get a worse CPC, lower quality results, and worse CPM, which means that by launching your audiences at random times throughout the day, you're going to be causing your ad account to spend sporadically and overall just not give you the ideal result. That's why we go ahead and launch our audiences at 12 a.m. midnight EST on your time zone. I don't care if you're in Uzbekistan and Facebook is in California, you are launching on your ad account midnight time zone, okay? Because what happens here is your ad account will reset via Facebook according to that time zone on that ad account, not on where Facebook is located. Back in 2016, 2017, I used to be an advocate for being on Facebook's LA time zone. And in reality, it just caused me and my team to go ahead and miss shit because we had to be up 3 hours late and we never really saw any real results anyway from it. So what we've been doing for the last several years, and it's been working like a charm, is using our own personal ad account time zone to gauge the midnight time. So with that being said, all audiences that are to be duplicated and launched are to be scheduled to launch at that exact midnight time. Because when you spend or launch in the middle of the day, it's like saying to your Facebook ad account, hey, I know you're tired, I know you're hungover or whatever, you're not ready, but just go in the game and be the best you can. He's going to try his best, but he's going to get pounded on the field because he's not ready. He's just not prepared, right? Launch the audiences at midnight. You're going to spend evenly throughout the day and you'll get more favorable results. There's no use spending or starting a brand new campaign in the middle of the day because it's going to be a burn day. Now, with that being said, ladies and gents, the goal is 100 sales. Okay, the goal is 100 sales because guess what happens at Micro Big Bang? This is when everything changes, okay? And for my guys who are rocking and rolling or at this level, you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? At Micro Big Bang, okay, this is when it turns from just like, oh my God, it's doing well, but it's giving me a headache, to it becomes a consistent asset, right? Because we have to understand, guys, we're building a business like literally from scratch. Like, look at how crazy this is. Like, we're building it from, there's nothing there, and we're building it from zero. So we have to understand there's going to be inconsistencies from step 1 to step 2. Okay. And just like Luke Tull said in the last interview we did with him, he's at like 6 or 7 million now. Okay. And he had no business when he joined. The guy had so much inconsistency from step 1 to step 2, he pretty much almost killed the product. I'm like, Luke, stop letting 1 week of results dictate what you're going to do the next month. Look at the lifetime, look at the last several weeks of you running the ads, and that's what you're going to make a dictation off of. Don't let one freaking day, 1 freaking week dictate your movement moving forward. Realize this is business, and it's not just sunshines and Lambos. It'll never be like that, right? It's about actual consistency and having a real momentum game plan. Okay, so realize that inconsistencies is probable at first, but what the goal is to reach 100 sales to decrease that inconsistency. Now, with that being said, at 100 sales, what happens here?